Imagine yourself sitting around a crackling fire, surrounded by the wise elders of your ancestral tribe. They've gathered to share a timeless wisdom passed down through generations about the nature of reality and our place within it. One of the elders, a revered grandmother, begins to speak in a hushed tone. We have always known that the world is not just what we see on the surface. There are depth, dimensions, and energies that shape our experiences and interactions. Our ancestors understood this, and it's time for you to remember. She pauses, gazing into the flames, and continues. Think of the world like a woven basket, where every thread represents a different aspect of life. We can choose to see only the surface wave, or we can delve deeper, exploring the intricate patterns and connections that bind us all together. The choice is ours, but the consequences of our perception will shape the very fabric of our existence. As the grandmother's words fade into the night air, you feel an ancient wisdom stirring within you, urging you to explore the multi-dimensional nature of reality. In this video, we'll embark on a journey to uncover the hidden patterns and connections that govern our lives, and discover how shifting our perception can transform our relationships, our sense of self, and our understanding of the world around us. Welcome to Atom to Cosmos, dear explorers of the cosmos, dear seekers. Today we're going to speak of the nature of reality, and especially when it comes to the perception of the world and relationships and everything, as a metaphor, as an allegory of how we can perceive and create our own realities through the 2D and 3D view of the world. So of course we can do a whole video about it. You let me know in the comments if you're interested, but the idea is like we have lots of answers through quantum physics. Technically, we live in a world which is three-dimensional, okay? So everything around us is supposed to be 3D, with the length, with the width, and with the depth. However, if we take the metaphor, the concept, we quickly realize that we always remain on the surface. Everything we look at, we take it as a 2D perspective. The best example of that is the sky. And we can take the Truman Show, the film, as a beautiful example of this allegory, in the sense that we have the sky, we have the moon, we have the stars, but except for a couple of hours maybe at middle school, like quickly done, so we make sure we don't have any more interest in that in the future. That doesn't exist. Well, we look at the stars, we look at the moon, but we don't perceive the distance, the depth of it. We'll do another video about the moon specifically, but if you take the moon, and even more because it's tidally locked with the Earth, so we always see the same face, regardless of the faces. But I've heard people telling me, oh, the moon is moving in the sky. And that's are people who are more than 30 years old. So don't get me wrong, I'm not judging anything or anyone here. But it's important we take this into consideration, because at the end of the day, we have all these beautiful skies, heavens above our head that most of the time, unless we live in a city or that the weather is very bad, we have all the time above our heads, but we never really look at it in depth. We always patch our emotions, our feelings, because we don't understand them. And you know what, don't get me wrong again, we don't have the means or tools, or we think we don't, because we do. But we don't take the time, we don't have the courage to face these emotions, to go in the depth of them. Because it makes sense, we are deeply traumatized by our emotions, by what happens in our lives, especially when it comes to infancy and childhood. We usually carry all these deep emotions throughout a lifetime. And basically, we know in psychology that we have at least 70% of emotions that are subconscious or unconscious. So it's even more important nowadays in a digital era, in a world where we numb our connections, our emotions. Because again, we have no unconditional support. We are not unconditionally trusted or loved somehow by our parents, and we even carry their own emotional processes or transgenerational processes. So it's very fundamental that we can focus on the three-dimensional perspective of reality in all possible ways, so that we can look at things and at people with a different angle. A few years ago, when I was writing my first book, you have the link below if you're interested about my journey around the world, but basically I wrote a lot about the Yin and Yang. So we do a specific video about it, but I think it's a great example of perceiving the world and again even philosophies in a very superficial way instead of going into the depth. The Yin and Yang symbol that we all know very well, it's drawn somehow in a 2D perspective. And I found it interesting to take it as a 3D perspective. And there is dynamic to it. Okay, it's not still, it's in motion, because the energy is always in motion. And synchronicity and magic and love, they always happen when we move the energy somehow to manifest, to materialize things and people and synchronicity on this physical plane. But it should be taken, we tend to forget this drop of yin in everything we're doing, whether it comes to productivity or action or the passion of the yang energy, and vice versa. This drop of masculine, of yang in the infinite yin and feminine energy. Another example I like is, which I also talked about in my book, it's about what I call the allegory of the cylinder. If you take a cylinder, you have length and width and depth in the object. So imagine you have two people. One is having the rectangle, seeing a rectangle from the cylinder, and the other one is seeing a circle 90 degrees away. So now imagine that these guys, they're talking to each other, and one is saying, oh, have you seen the rectangle? And the other one is saying, oh, but what are you talking about? It's like, it's a circle. They may argue and say, no, this is a rectangle. No, this is a circle. Unless these people, they really have a clear, honest communication about it, about what they feel, well, they're never going to see and feel what the other one sees and feels. That's why it's so important sometimes, or most of the time, if not all the time, to put our ego and perception on the side and try to put ourselves in the shoes of the other people and saying that actually if the energy is mutual, this is a law of the universe. It's like the third law of Newton. You have a force generates like an opposite and equal force. So it's always balanced, even through physics, even going like woo-woo, spiritual mumbo-jumbo, whatever. Because this is what I like. Most spiritual concepts can be applied to physics or quantum physics or astrophysics. And this is what we're going to try to do in this channel, somehow together, sharing this experience. So through this allegory of the cylinder, we can also really understand that everything is a matter of perception. And again, depending on whether we breathe and take the time and energy to look at things in different ways, because at the end of the day, there are infinite ways of seeing everything and everyone. Things are complex, life is complex, but it can be extremely simple and flowy and smooth if we take the time to align ourselves with a deeper introspection, understanding and integration of reality. And yes, we have the power, and we talk about it a lot in this channel. We have the power to create and manifest our own reality through synchronicity, through science and through the spirit. All together, finding this middle point that exists in everything and everyone in this physical universe. Seeing the world in 3D allows us to go into the depth of emotions, of empathy, of this channeling of energy that comes from both the cosmos, from the universe, and from the earth, from all living organisms around us. And it allows us to perceive the world and the universe and each other in a very different way. This is what I've loved through my history about astronomy. Because I started so young, I was 11 years old, well, basically, naturally, I could understand this space, this depth of the cosmos, and it humbles us. Understanding that, well, what might look like a constellation in the first place with different stars and different names, well, basically, if you look at it from a different angle, well, these stars that make these constellations are not at the same distance. And this is when we integrate the 4D, and taking time into consideration this 4D allows us to understand that we never see things and people and everything around us, because there is always a delay. You know, the light of the sun, for example, takes 8 minutes to come to the earth. So seeing the sun like it was 8 minutes ago and not really now. So it's interesting, like, especially in the concept of spirituality, and which is actually life and not spiritual at all, to be present, to be conscious in the here and now. Because as human beings, we always need a beginning and an end to understand concepts and things. And at the end of the day, everything is infinite. Why not? Why not? Why the universe wouldn't be infinite with no beginning and no end? But our brains have never been conditioned to understand that. So the idea is like going together in order to become a sustainable collective in all possible ways. We have to decondition our neurons, our brains, and there are many tools that hopefully we can share together through this channel as well, or in real life, so that we can embrace the real 3D and beyond perception of the world, of people, especially when it comes to the emotional level, through empathy, through compassion, through gratitude, understanding, feeling, hugging life, hugging our connections, cherishing them, because at the end of the day we realize there are not so many. We're looking for quality and for quantity. Thank you so much for having me today, for watching this video. It would be awesome, even if it takes you a bit more time and energy, if you could like this video and share this video and leave a comment about any topic you'd like to discuss together somehow. I wish you all the best, and I send you all my love and gratitude. Namaste.